So today, I'm going to show you guys how to change the oil on your car. What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Household Journeys. So today, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be replacing the oil on my car. So my car has a sensor on it and it tells me when the oil life is getting pretty low. But if you don't have that, a good rule of thumb is to change it about every 5,000 miles. So my car has over 98,000 miles. So I'm going to be using this Mobil 1 high mileage. So this is for engines that are over 75,000. And I have the extended performance here. It says that it protects for 20,000 miles. I still wouldn't recommend going up to 20,000 miles for an oil change. Again, keep it to more about 5,000 if you can. Full disclosure, I'm not a mechanic whatsoever. It's just basic car maintenance that I do. So what you need is the oil. Now, depending on the make and model of your car, it's going to change on what type of oil you use. I have a 4-cylinder vehicle, so it's an OW20. This is one of the thinner oils. So check your owner's manual if you're not sure which type of oil you should be using. So materials are going to be a funnel, so that way you can pour the oil into the engine. You need an oil filter and some kind of ratchet or wrench. I have a 17mm socket here, so that's what I'm going to be using. Some kind of pan to be able to collect the old oil. And lastly, some kind of car jack to be able to lift your car up so that way you can get under and drain the oil. And of course, you're going to need a car to be able to do your oil change. It's kind of important. So whenever I'm going to jack up my car, I always put the wheel stops on the back tires just to prevent my car from potentially rolling back. And before jacking up your car, be sure that your car is on park and you have the emergency brake on. One thing I want to make a note of is that depending on the vehicle, sometimes there aren't any covers underneath the engine bay. So in my case, I don't have one. You know, my car likes to raw dog it. And other vehicles like this Honda CR-V has this plastic cover here. But these are easy to take off. They're just little plastic tabs that you might have to screw or twist off. But having this extra layer of protection kind of sucks sometimes because you can't feel anything. All right, so if you go under the car, you can see how kind of hook thing right here. And then there's these two holes. So for my vehicle, this is where my jack point is here in the front. So I'm going to line my jack with that chunk of metal there. Okay. So as an extra bit of precaution, I like to put extra jack stands right there behind the front set of wheels because having more supports is a lot safer. So I would much rather have 3 points of support if I'm going to be going under the car. All right, so now that the car is lifted, I'm going to go ahead and pop the hood here. So going to the front passenger seat, levers right here. So pull that. So now I can fit my fingers underneath the hood, and there should be like a little tab, a little lever that I can feel flip up and down. So I'm going to push that up, push the rest of the hood up, and then I'm going to use this stand right here. It goes into this slot. This will hold the hood up. Okay. And this little lever is what I was talking about that ultimately lets you open up the hood. Now, if you're going to be changing the oil, be sure that your car is cool. It's not hot, because otherwise the oil will come out hot and you can potentially burn yourself. And if you're unsure on what type of oil to use, it tells you right here on the cap. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and remove the cap. So the reason you want to remove the cap first is that way when you start draining the oil from the bottom, air can help push all the oil out of the engine. Okay, so going under the car here, here is where I jacked up the car. So if I just follow right behind that, this big chunk of metal right here is the oil pan. You can see, and right here it even tells you engine oil with an arrow to the drain plug, which is right there. When you remove the drain plug, it does kind of shoot out. So you might want to push your oil pan back just a little bit. And from the looks of it, seems I've had a small oil leak coming from here. Alright, so I've cleaned that up. So my guess is maybe I didn't tighten this enough initially, because this was a brand new crush washer when I installed that, so not 100% sure what could have caused it. That's my best guess, but let's go ahead and do this anyways. So to loosen the bolt, you want to go counterclockwise. So if I'm currently at 6 o'clock, I want to go towards 5 o'clock. Oh man, that does not want to come out. Dude, what the f? Alright, so that thing did not want to come undone. So I had to use my impact wrench here to loosen that up. But it worked. It worked almost right away. So now we can go ahead and take off the rest of the bolt there. So as you can see, it's loosened up. And there it goes. So as you notice, it kind of has a very chocolatey look to it. So that means that the oil life has been used up, that this oil did need to be changed. So as the oil drains there's one other thing that we have to remove. If we go up over here to this side, this corner of the oil pan, this is where the filter is sitting here. So this one you should be able to remove with just the power of your hand. But if not, I like to use these KN filters because they have this little nut here at the bottom. Now this little nut is not intended to tighten, it's only intended to remove, to loosen this up. As you can see, I was able to remove this with just my hand. Now this is going to spill a little bit. Okay, so there it is, been removed. So I'm just going to leave that here in the pan. There you go. All right, so as the oil drains there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the new container of oil and measure that out. I have a 2014 Honda Accord, so that uses 4.4 quarts of oil. And if we look at the container, it uses 5 quarts, so I don't need the whole thing. But what's nice is that it tells you how much there is here. So from the top, which is right here, that's full. 4 quarters, 3 quarters, 2 quarters, 1 quarter. So if I just count backwards, this is 4 quarters. I don't need a full, I don't need the whole thing. So if I go 4 quarters here, and this is halfway, so just a little bit less than halfway, this would be about 4.4, right around there. So that should be close enough. So now when I go to pour this in, I'll drain the oil from here all the way down to this mark. It's not an exact science, but it's good enough. All right, so it's been about 15 minutes. And as you can see, it's down to a very slow trickle. So that's good enough right there. I'm going to go ahead and put the drain plug back on. You could wait a couple more minutes, but at this point, it's coming out so slowly that it's not really going to make much of a difference anymore. Now I did go ahead and clean the plug here, and then when doing this, be sure to replace your crusher washer. So I got a new one here. I'm going to go ahead and put that on, and that should fit, okay? Now the reason you want to replace the crusher washer is because anytime you use a crusher washer, they're meant to be one-time uses because they create these unique grooves every time you use one. And so if you try to reuse it, you could potentially get leaks through those previous grooves. So you always want to use a fresh one. Another thing I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video is you do need a torque wrench because the plug does require a torque specification of 30 foot-pounds. So if you don't have one of these, you could technically just screw this on as tight as you can and then just hope and pray. However, I would not use any power tools when screwing this on because then you're going to have a really hard time trying to unscrew it for your next oil change. Okay, gonna clean this off real quick. On goes the plug back on with the new washer. Screw that all the way in by hand, nice and snug. So being that I'm tightening it, I want to go clockwise. So if I'm putting my wrench here at, this is what, maybe like kind of 5 o'clock-ish, I want to go towards 6 o'clock. I heard the click, so that means I've achieved 30 foot-pounds, so that is good to go. Now, whenever I have to torque something to specs, I don't know about you guys, but I like to go just a smidge over the recommendation. So this was 30 foot-pounds. I put it at 32. I don't know. It just gives me a little bit extra peace of mind. So now that I've screwed the plug back on, I have to go ahead and put the new filter on. So what I'm going to do is make sure that they are the same size, which they are. Okay, and then just take a small little bead of oil and put it right here around the seal of the new filter. And now I can go ahead and screw this on. Okay, so here's the oil plug. So if I just work my way down, and this is where I want to go ahead and put the new filter on. Catch the threads. And come on. There it goes. Okay, so just screw that on by hand. Okay, and again, you don't want to use any tools on this whatsoever. You just want to tighten this as much as you can just with your bare hand. There you go. All right, so now I'm going to take my funnel. I'm going to have that sit right there where the plug is for the oil. Be sure that this is nice and clean because you don't want any kind of debris getting into your engine, okay? So be sure that this is clean, free of specks, any dirt, dust, or anything like that. And again, I've marked approximately where 4.4 quarts of oil is at. So I'm just going to pour this all the way until it reaches that line. I'm going to pour it in slowly. And if you can see, not sure how well you can see that, but if you look at the oil here, it has kind of like it looks like honey almost. It has a goldish, almost translucent kind of look to it. So that's how you know the oil's clean. Compared to when the oil was being drained, it was very dark. It had that chocolatey kind of look to it. All right, so let's check. Use this light here, and you can see that I am just right at that mark that I made. So looks like I filled up, or I should say, it looks like I've used up just the right amount of oil there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and remove this with the paper towel there, and then just go ahead and screw the cap back on. Nice and snug there. All right, good. All right, so everything's good to go. The oil has been changed. So now I'm just going to go ahead and remove the jacks and return the car back down to the floor. Okay, so what do you do with the old oil? Well, it's pretty simple. Put it in a container, and then you can take it to your local auto parts store like O'Reilly's or AutoZone, and they take it off of your hands for free in order to recycle this oil. All right, so I've been running my car for a few minutes just to get the oil circulated. And from the looks of it, there doesn't appear to be any oil leaks. So we are good. All right, so the last thing we have to do here is reset the oil lifespan in the system. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go to settings, vehicle settings, maintenance info, maintenance reset. And if you look here, I'm currently at 15%. So I'm going to reset this. Would you like to reset maintenance information, oil life? Yes. Now if I go back over here, go to oil, my oil life is at 100%. All right, so there you go. That's how to change the oil on your car. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. This has been Household Journeys. Take care, people.